Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have here with us today the Prime Minister of Israel. I'd like to ask all of you to please rise as we welcome Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Thank you. Today, Yaakov Katz. Thank you all. I can see you clearly, more or less, and I'm glad to see all the diplomats assembled here. There is a flourishing of Israel's diplomatic relations. You can see it in the pictures. Mr. Modi and I are wading in good waters. Mr. Trump and I are walking on an important path together. The Prime Minister of Australia is here. We commemorated 100 years of the liberation of Beersheba, which led to the liberation of Jerusalem from Ottoman yoke. This is evident by 300 world leaders who visited Israel, 1,800 international, we call them influencers, people who command great influence in their countries. These numbers are important. They represent an important increase. Could you show the next slide? We have diplomatic relations with 159 countries, 103 consulates, 77 embassies. It's lack of budgets. Otherwise, we'd have an embassy in just about every one. There are about 200 countries in the world. It would be wrong to say that the other 40 or so countries we don't have relations with. We do. We have relations nearly with every single one of them for reasons that are important for them and reasons that are important for us. This is unprecedented. It takes Israel out of the proposed myth of isolation into a tsunami of diplomatic, economic, security, and technological ties. Next. That's 21 foreign visits across 6 continents that I've had this year, including the leaders of all the major continents and all the major powers, all the the Security Council, senior 5 members and permanent members, and of course many, many others. Please. This is a map that shows in blue the new agreements that we established or new understandings that we established in the last year alone. You can see it's quite an expanse. It includes Muslim countries. I think Turkey should not be there, by the way, as far as I know. I'm not sure we have, no, just a factual thing. I'm not sure that we have any new arrangement with Turkey, but we have had new agreements with Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and of course the many countries that you see around the globe. This is, there's something very big happening here. Please, go ahead. It's also happening in the Arab world. I think we are doing surveys across the continents, and we're looking and we see the response by the public. This is internet queries, and you can see that in the Arab world there's a clear change in the way that they view Israel, that they think that ties with Israel will benefit their countries. That is a very dramatic change. So, what is driving this change? Basically 2 things, economy and security. Economy, because we're in the midst of a great change in the world, and the change is the move not merely to technology, but a certain kind of technology. And it's the connection between big data, connectivity, and artificial intelligence that is changing the world. 10 years ago, the largest 10 companies in the world were 5 energy companies and one IT company. Within the short span of 10 years, it's completely reversed. It's 5 IT companies and 1 energy company, Exxon, left. It went from number 1 to number 5. This is a revolution. Israel is benefiting from the revolution. Indeed, Israel is leading this revolution. Obviously, we're not the only ones, but there are not many centers in the world who are leading it. is Eric Schmidt told me Israel is the other place. And then he corrected himself and he said, no, it's actually the place in the things that I'm interested in. Okay, and that is being repeated again and again and again. You see that, for example, in the emergence of new industries. Can we see a new industry, please? It's called the car industry. Okay. Now, all right, you can see that. Can you see that? All right. Oh, this? Can you see it? Does work. Okay. 50 years ago, we tried to have a car industry. How do I know? Because I was a young officer in Seret Matkal, and Matan Vilnai and I used to drive back in a plexiglass car made of fiberglass, produced by Israel. One day I leaned on the car. My elbow went through it. Okay? I remember the fibers hurting my arm. That was the end of that car industry. We couldn't compete on chassis. We couldn't compete on wheels. We couldn't compete on engines. That requires scale. We didn't have scale. Okay? That collapsed. Today we have a car industry. You don't call it a car industry, but it's a car industry, second to none. It's got about 500 tech companies. Out of the thousands of startup companies that we have tech companies now that deal with cars. You use Waze? Yes. In just about every one of your countries? Yes. Okay. Where does Waze come from? Yeah. Who did they sell it to? Google. For how much? No, $1 billion. Nothing. Caroline Glick, this was sold for nothing. Gazillion. Okay, nothing. So that's one thing that you use and you know is changing the way people drive cars. But cars are basically computers on wheels. 85% of a car's value. Okay? In 5 years, 10 years, 85% of a car's value will be software. That's where we can compete. Big data, connectivity, artificial intelligence. So I just gave you Waze, now I give you Mobileye. Mobileye was sold not for $1 billion, it was sold for $15 billion, still cheap, to Google. But the interesting thing is Google didn't just buy it, they said, we buy it, sorry, Intel. They didn't just buy it, they said, we buy it and we give you the keys to 30 autonomous vehicle businesses around the world to be headed from here, from Jerusalem. Ki mitzion titzeh tochna. How the hell do I translate that? I don't know. Okay, all right? That is a change. And the more important change is the 500 tech companies, the 4,000 entrepreneurs, the 250 research groups from all over the world who are doing what? Who are spending $3 to $4 billion on the other guys. That's a revolution. In all your countries, you need cars. In all your countries, you need health. We're trying to create exactly the kind of revolution in digital health, preventive medicine, personalized medicine, because we have a database. Israel has the best database in the world for its citizens. 98% computerized medical records and a little card. I showed it to Xi Jinping, President Xi, in Beijing. He said, I want one of those. I said, well, you have to get 98% of the Chinese to have one of those to have real value, because what happens is we take that database, then we take 100,000 people and we take a genetic sample. That's a subset. And then we take 2,000 people and we give them sensors and we monitor their physical activity. We just are creating 3 levels, 3-layered database that can give you personalized medicine and preventive medicine, perhaps. But it costs us a few tens of millions of shekels to do this, so we're going to do it. That's medicine. You need cars, you need medicine, you need milk. You see the milk? If you haven't seen this, you're not coming to enough of my presentations. Okay, so which cow gives the most milk per cow in the world? It's not an American cow, it's not a Dutch cow or a French cow, it's an Israeli cow. So if you're Russia, you do experimental farms because you want to see if you can scale this up, and Israel has been invited to do this, and we're doing this across the world. Okay? Suppose you want protection for your cell phones. You use cell phones? You have bank accounts? You want them protected? Well, you need protection. Where's that protection? Can you show our complex in Beersheba? That's where a lot of that protection is coming from. That's our new cybersecurity thing. If you haven't seen it, I invite all of you to see the public part that we can show. In our new cybersecurity headquarters, we've taken our cybersecurity units, an industrial park, and right next to Ben Gurion University with a train station and a fast rail that will be even faster to Beersheba, from Beersheba to Tel Aviv. Why is that important? Here's why it's important. Can you This is Israel's share at the end of last year of the global investment in cybersecurity, in companies that deal with cybersecurity. We received 20% of the world share in this. 20%. That's 200 times our size in the world's population. If you want cars, if you want milk, if you want health, if you want cybersecurity, Israel is a key player. This is what is driving that map. Go back to the map. This is what is driving that map, world map. Everybody needs the future. Israel is seizing the future. And we're ready to share it with other countries. There's a second reason why that's happening. It's not merely technology, it's the other T, and it's called terror. The sparks of Middle Eastern terror fly all over the world, from Australia to Canada, everywhere. And everybody needs protection against that threat. Israel's intelligence services are second to none. I say that carefully. Israel's intelligence services are second to none in having prevented dozens of major terrorist attacks in dozens of countries. Everybody is interested, except the generator of some of these things, like, see that country in red? By the way, that's not on our list of diplomatic allies. So there is now a confluence because of economic reasons, because of our economic and technological prowess on the one hand, and our security and intelligence prowess on the other hand. Because of those two factors, we have now a third capacity to make alliances. All countries need alliances. Superpowers need alliances. So a small country with a big spirit, but a small country like Israel also needs alliances. And therefore, we're creating alliances. The alliances are throughout the world. There is one irreplaceable alliance with the United States, and it's very strong. Could you show how strong it is? That's a tracking poll of Gallup. Every year they ask the same question from the year 2000 to 2017 to the U.S. public. Same question each time, each year. In my opinion, each year at the same time. Same question. What is your overall opinion of Israel? What's your overall opinion of the Palestinian Authority? Palestinian Authority is flat. See that? Reminds me of the EKG of, never mind. Flat, okay. Okay, 18%, that's the curve. Israel is moving up from 54% to 71%. But actually, if you track this back to the Six-Day War, you know what number you'd get? 35%. This is a curve that is steadily rising. It's not that we don't have challenges on the campuses. We do. It's not that we don't have challenges elsewhere in the United States. We do. But there is a unique alliance between Israel and the United States, and therefore, I put it separately. Show everything else. Back to the map. The two forces that I told you, the economic, technological ties, the security, intelligence ties are changing. We're coloring the map with the blue. I went to Africa 3 times in 18 months. Tremendous, tremendous interest. Asia, China, we signed an innovation agreement that China signed, the likes of which it signed with only one other country, Switzerland. We have agreements with Russia. I went the first time to Australia. and the first time to Singapore, even though we've had connections with him. Mr. Modi came to Israel in a historic visit, and I'm going to give a reciprocal visit in a few weeks here. Make sure that we wade in the water, would you? I mean, I like that. Okay. And I was the first Israeli prime minister to visit any country south of the United States in the Western Hemisphere. This is happening because of the technological security revolution. It is important. If your country, for any reason, is not on that map, come and see me. I'm the foreign minister. So use it as an invitation. Our ministers who are here, Minister Bennett, Minister Shaked, and the other ministers all know that this is part of our policy, to go out, to reach out, to expand our ties. So the future in that regard looks good. Here's the challenge. Which country sticks out? Hello? Which one? Iran. It is true that there is only one regime today left that openly, unequivocally, brazenly calls for Israel's destruction, because that has already changed in the Arab world. Doesn't mean that we can make peace treaties yet with the Arab world without some kind of movement with the Palestinians. Peace treaties, not. Everything else below that, yes, and it's happening. So we still have challenges. How to convert this change, this revolutionary change that is enveloping the world and enveloping our region, how do we translate it into a formal peace between us and all our neighbors, Palestinians and others? And also, how do we translate this into the votes that we want in international forums? We still have time for that. I want to commend Mexico, the president of Mexico, who, my friend, who told me a few weeks ago that they're going to change, Mexico is going to change its vote on 10 anti-Israel resolutions in the upcoming General Assembly. You can applaud that. Thank you. And the same we've been seeing from other countries, but it will take a decade, possibly a decade, as long as a decade, to see that change happen in the international forums. These are two important challenges that we have as we expand our network of alliances. But its progress is undeniable, except for Iran. Iran stands out not merely as threatening us. Iran is threatening the entire world. And if Iran continues unabated, they will have a nuclear arsenal of 100 bombs and more. Within a decade, they'll have the capacity to enrich uranium on a vast scale and break out not to one bomb, but to 100 bombs. This has to be stopped, not merely because Iran calls for the annihilation of Israel, but because Iran wants to conquer the entire Middle East and go beyond that. It's developing ICBMs to reach any point on Earth. It is an aggressive regime. It exports terrorism. It fires missiles into Saudi Arabia. It is seeking a land bridge. Can you show that? This is what Iran is trying to do. Iran is trying to build an empire. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, from Yemen to Gaza. Ultimately, they want to conquer the Middle East. We will not let them establish themselves in Syria. We will not do that. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say, and we do whatever is necessary to prevent that. But equally, I think this is not merely an Israeli interest. This is your interest. So today I have one request for every diplomat in this conference. Immediately after my speech, please draft a cable to your country's foreign minister, my counterpart, or to the president, or to the prime minister, and ask them to apply more pressure on Iran, which can be done in many ways. I think you can highlight the plight of a jailed human rights activist in Evin prison in Iran, or speak out against Iran's hanging of gay people, or advocate for the rights of Christians and Baha'is who are denied any semblance of rights in Iran, or levy new sanctions in light of Iran's brazen violations of its international obligations, like their violation of the UN Security Council resolutions on missiles. Demand an end to Iran's incitement to genocide, a clear violation of the Geneva Convention. Join our American friends in creating a better nuclear deal, one that does not guarantee Iran will have enough enriched uranium to produce 100 bombs or more within a decade. But above all, if you want to support peace and security, you want to stop this regime, above all, before anything else, do what I do. Support the Iranian people. I speak to them. I sent them yesterday another video. It's past the 1 million mark, I think. And we get many responses from Iran. Above all, support those whom the Iranian regime fears most, their own people. Help them. Countering Iranian aggression will significantly aid the fight against Islamist terror. It will strengthen regional stability. It will keep Israel safe. It will promote peace. 95% of the problems in the region emanate from Iran. Hezbollah wouldn't last a day without the scaffolding provided by Iran. Hamas is dependent on Iran. The aggression you see throughout the region, from the Bab el-Mandeb Straits across the region, is Iran. Do this to ensure security. Do this to protect the flames of liberty and the flames of progress. Delaying these actions would be a grievous error. Terrorists who are not confronted get bolder with time, and the appetite of expansionism, Iran's expansionism, grows stronger with time. So a regime that openly calls for the annihilation of one democracy will not stop there. It will continue. We have to stop Iran now. I ask that you act now. That's my message to all of you. If you're not on the map, call me. If you are on the map, act against Iran. Thank you.